Good evening. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's indeed an honor to end up this day in Michigan with this new format that we're trying out here. We're hoping that this is something that is a regular event that we do throughout the country um, on ongoing months. It's a town hall format, and basically, I'm just going to be talking about the issues that are facing our country and what I think we can do to solve those things. Um, I do first of all want to touch base on the presidential campaign that's going on right now. And for those who've heard me talk earlier today, both in Grand Rapids and Detroit, and for that fact, and other places, I've talked about the lack of issues. Now, I'm not saying that every presidential candidate is lacking talking about the issues, but what I'm seeing is a whole lot of slander, a whole lot of people going back and forth at one another, calling calling each other names, insulting the other candidate, and it's really childish. I think childish behavior, quite honestly, and it's almost like first grade behavior. Matter of fact, I think first graders would behave better than this. What I want to present to you is my view on the issues and where I stand in those issues. I think that's the most important thing we're facing in this presidential election. And it's not about insults. It's not about who can be the bully on the street. It's about who can solve our problems in our country. And our country has plenty of them. I want to first start out with what was said by one of the candidates who was saying that on the first day of his term, he would be a dictator. Let me say this. On January 20th of 2025, I will raise my right hand and I will swear to defend the Constitution of the United States as a president, not as a dictator. The Constitution does not call our leader of our country to be a dictator. We need an effective leader in the Oval Office, a person who can take action. We have a host of issues that we're facing. I think one of the biggest challenges we have right now, by far, is the border situation on our southernmost border. I'm from Texas, as many of you know, and I visited the border almost a year ago. Almost a year ago, I was on the southernmost border. And what I saw was surprising. I went down the International Bridge right there in El Paso, and I saw that morning I was there. I was there for a couple hours, and what I saw were hundreds of people coming into the United States the proper way, not running across other people's lands, not uh, running into the country, but coming into the country the proper way. You know, and that's the way it should be handled in this country. This country is a land of opportunity. This country is a democracy, a leading one of the leading democracies in the world that people look up to. Even with our problems in our country right now, people look up to the United States, and so you should enter the country the proper way. The best example I know of that is my one of my pastors back home in Texas. This man is from Ghana, one of my associate pastors. And he didn't cross into the United States via the Rio Grande River. He came in the United States via DFW Airport, came in through a major airport, and is on his way to citizenship right now. That's how you enter the United States. And we need to really get tough on border security. We've talked about it so much, but yet we've not taken any action on it. I believe we should continue building the wall. The problem is that we've said we're going to build the wall. We're going to Mexico pay for it. I'm not sure how that worked out, but we had materials set aside for the construction of the wall that are setting in the desert, rotting. materials that we paid for as taxpayers. Let's finish the job. Elected officials have the tendency to say they want to do things and never carry through with them. One of the things I'm going to make a pledge to you here tonight is the commitments I make to you, I will do my very best to accomplish them. They may not be accomplished in the first 100 days of a Rogers administration. They may not be accomplished in the first year, the second year, or the third year, but they will be accomplished. One of them is stricter border control. And with that stricter border control, and with the problem we have on our southernmost border, is the fentanyl crisis. That crisis can be simply resolved by enforcement and tighter border control. Let's think about fentanyl. That's a very dangerous drug. And it takes very small amounts of fentanyl to kill somebody. There's enough fentanyl that crosses the border in a single day right now to wipe out the entire United States population. Let that sink in for a moment. Enough fentanyl comes across our border to wipe out the whole United States population. Why are we letting that continue? It needs to come to a stop. It needs to come to a stop. And so my administration would tighten border controls, and we would see to it that the police officers, border officials, border patrol have the appropriate funding and the appropriate tools to control the fentanyl issue. Fentanyl is a drug that's killing so many Americans, and a lot of them are our youth. It's killing our future. And so we have to get this out under control. It has to be under control. You know, another thing that I want to do as president is unemployment. I want to reform the unemployment system. You think about it, where we were at this point almost 4 years ago, the unemployment in this country was pretty good. But sneaking on the horizon was a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic that increased our unemployment to 15.5%. Overnight, we went from 3.5%, 4%, very low unemployment to 15.5%. Millions of people were without jobs. Our economy was on the verge of collapsing. There had to be something done to pump money into the economy in order to stabilize the economy. So we had to send out checks in order to support the economy because we were sitting at home locked in. The country was shut down for the most part. And people weren't working. We had to get this country, we had to continue this country going. So we came up with the bailout, basically, or sustaining our country through government payouts. Well, that was all fine and good during the pandemic. But as the pandemic waned, as we went into lower and lower cases, and the economy reopening again, people returning to work and resuming normalcy the way it should be, there was a certain segment of the United States that didn't return to work and are still out of work. They're able-bodied Americans who figured out a way to take advantage of the unemployment system and continue to receive checks. I'm going to put those folks on notice tonight. Your days of doing that are numbered. My unemployment program, called Enhanced Unemployment, will reform the unemployment system, and it will mandate that somebody on unemployment has a minimum of 5 job interviews per week for continued benefits. To be on unemployment shouldn't be something that we're proud of. I've been on unemployment. I know how it feels. I've been through many job transitions. I know how it feels. Matter of fact, on one of them, Andrea, told me, matter of fact, that my new job was finding a new job. And that should be every American's job that's on unemployment. Your new job is to find a new job. Think about the statistics that are out there. There are 1.6 jobs available for every American. Think about this room here tonight in Detroit. 1.6 jobs available. You could walk out of here tonight and have a job. It's that easy. And when I talk about able bodied Americans, I want to make this point clear here tonight as well. I'm not talking about our retired folks. They've earned their retirement and they're enjoying their retirement years. I'm not talking about our stay-at-home parents. They figured it out. It's working well. But who I am talking about are the people who are able to work but aren't working or aren't in the workforce. Like I said, your days are numbered. You must return to the workforce. And this the mindset that we need to stay out needs to come to an end. Vaccines are out. The pandemic is in its waning days. The country is rolling along. It's time for us to go back to work. You know, and another thing that kind of goes along with that is education. Education has been a big interest of mine for almost 3 decades now. Happens when you're married to an educator. And it's going to be a main catalyst of my administration. The program is called Back to Basics. And the program quite simply is reforming our education system throughout our country. Now, I know you're going to say, we've had education presidents before, we've had education reform before. And I get it, I understand it. Actually, education reform goes back to the 1960s and even beyond, but the 1960s with President Johnson. But we had to take a serious approach at this. It is time to reform our classrooms, take the politics out of the classrooms. They don't belong in our classrooms. Pay our teachers a livable wage and teach our students what they need to be taught. Every morning across this country of ours, parents drive up to schools and drop off their most prized possessions they have, their students, their kids. When they pick them up at 3:15, they're hoping they're smarter than they were when they left them at 7:15 or 7:30 that morning. It is a teacher's job to teach them the ABCs, the 1, 2, 3s, the good, the bad, the ugly of history. That's all we owe them. We don't owe them a sanitized version of history. We owe them the version of history that is correct. We should teach them everything that we've done wrong. And I'm not going to stand up here tonight and tell you that the United States, in almost 250 years of existence, has done everything wrong. We haven't. Breaking news: we haven't done everything wrong, everything right. We've made some mistakes, and the only way we can go about correcting that and assuring that it does not happen in the future is to teach them. Were there some bad things? Absolutely, there were. Slavery, to name one, was a bad thing in this country. It needs to be taught. The Civil War and the division that happened in this country needs to be taught. The Civil Rights Movement that occurred that gave Americans more rights than they had to begin with is a good thing for this country. So we need to teach them these things so that they can lead the future. We don't realize it, and maybe you do, but think about it. In the classrooms throughout our country are sitting future senators, future congressmen, mayors, doctors, lawyers, astronauts, pilots, and they are our future. We owe them the education they deserve. And the people who teach them deserve a livable wage. So many teachers are living below the poverty level. It's incredible. And it's got to come to a stop. Back to Basics is going to offer is going to give teachers a livable wage. And you're going to say, oh, it's another Washington power grab. It is not a power grab. What it is, it's federal money going to the states to say, hey, here's money to pay your teachers a livable wage. We're not going to control how you distribute them, but we're going to give you the money. There's only that I know of, there's only one federally mandated program, and that's pre-K. I happen to know that because my wife is a pre-K teacher. They control kind of what she teaches because it's a federally subsidized program. We're not going to do that. We're not going to take over K through 12, but we're giving school districts or giving the states the money to distribute to the school districts so they can pay teachers a livable wage. We owe them that. And we got to recruit more qualified teachers. Teaching is a noble calling, and there's a lot of people out there who look at the teaching profession and they think, man, this has got to be a great job. 7:30 to 3:15, I'm out and I got summers off. Well, they're wrong. Teaching is 80 hours a week. It's report cards, it's late nights, it's lesson plans, it's meetings, it's programs, it's weekends on your laptop, it's grading papers. That's education. And it requires a commitment and a love for the students. You got to love to be around students and kids. One of the things I'm going to propose to do with Back to Basics is this. If you have a mid-career person, there could be a person who, let's say, for example, is in banking and has been in it for 20 years, let's say, and wants a career change and thinks teaching would be what he or she wants to do. Under Back to Basics, I'll pay for that certification. We'll pay for the certification of a teacher, providing you give me 1 year in the classroom. You give me 1 year in the classroom, we'll pay for your certification. Let's give everybody a chance to teach. And oftentimes those people who come change careers mid-career end up being very successful teachers. They bring to that classroom world experience and real life experience to teach to these kids. That's so important. And like I said, we owe them the basic education that they were promised. That's what we owe them. The other thing that's really a big issue is the world stage right now. The world, quite simply, is a mess. We got to have a person in the Oval Office who we can trust to make the right decisions, who will not be a dictator, but will work with other countries. We have many regional hotspots throughout the world, and we have to, as a leading country, a leading democracy, we have to be that leader and lead the way. So we need to be the leader in that, and we need to do what is right. And like I said, there are so many emerging democracies that still look upon our country as the leading example of democracy, and so we owe that to them. And I know that the situation in Israel, the situation in Ukraine, those are two big ones. Situation in Israel, just flat out, is wrong. I remember exactly where I was when it happened. I was on the way for a campaign trip to Iowa when I heard the news. And as we got up to Des Moines later on that day, I heard the devastating news about everybody, a lot of people being killed. Innocent girls, women being raped. There's people being drug out of their houses and shot. There's no sense in that. There's no sense in that. But, the situation in Israel, it's not going to be an easy fix. Nobody can guarantee that it'll be over with in 24 hours. We've been trying, honestly, we've been trying to solve the situation of Israel since the beginning of time. What I think needs to happen is a two-state solution. There's a way that Israel and the Palestinians can coexist. And I know presidents have tried it before. but I firmly believe that they can coexist with one another. I really do believe, and we do have peace. Peace does have a chance if we sit down and talk and work out the issues. Another issue that's come up, so many of them in this election cycle, and that's why I think it's so important to talk about these issues and not just slander somebody. That doesn't accomplish anything. And that's the sanctity of marriage. And in the sanctity of life. You know, Deep in my heart tells me that to take another person's life is wrong. But as a leader, I have to realize that as a leader of everybody in the United States, I must represent everybody in the United States. And so the United States should honor a woman's right to choose what she wants to do with her own body. The government has no business in stepping in and telling a woman whether they can have an abortion or not. That simply should not even take place. A woman's right to choose is between her and her doctor. It's not the state's job to dictate that. It's not the federal level's job to dictate that. But again, it's very clear where I stand. Firm deep down in my heart, I believe it's wrong. But I also believe in a person's right. And it gets down to the sanctity of marriage, too. I mean, I believe that marriage exists between a man and a woman, deep down in my heart. But I'm also not going to infringe on people's rights. That's what makes this country great. The United States of America allows those freedoms. We allow those freedoms. But we shouldn't step in a way and tell you who you can marry, who you can't marry, if you can have a child or not. That's not a democracy. That's what a candidate wants as a country. I'm not giving you that. I want to have a democracy. We need that. We've had that for almost 250 years. There's a lot of things, a lot of issues that we've talked about here this evening. And like I said, this is going to be something that I'm going to do on a regular basis throughout the country and sit down and just talk about what's on my mind, the issues that's facing our nation. Because quite simply, and you've probably heard this more than once, we face a very important decision in November. And I'm urging everyone to research the candidates, research their background, and vote for the one that most favors your views. That's a democracy. That's a democracy. And a democracy is also a person who is the sitting president who honors the voter's choice and will, if he is defeated in office or she's defeated in office one day, leave office on January 20th peacefully. I've had the honor of being a part of 3 presidential inauguration staffs throughout my life. And to me, it's the greatest symbol of democracy that's watched worldwide is Inauguration Day. And you see the peaceful transfer of power. That doesn't happen in every country. In most countries, when there's a transfer of power, it's done by gun and violence. This is done by a shake of the hands, and I wish you the best of luck, and walking out to a helicopter and saying thank you, and you're on the way back home to your home state, and the new president continues. That's a democracy. So I'm urging each and every one of us here in Detroit and throughout America, for that fact, to really think about your decision when it comes election time. We do have a choice, and I urge you to make that right choice for this country. This country is something very special. I've learned that early on in my life. I was privileged enough to have a government teacher, and he taught me the importance of patriotism, taught me the importance of being respectful, respecting one person's rights and how the government works, how a bill becomes a law. And that's why I'm here tonight. That's why back home in Texas, my mayor had the same government teacher I had. And she is an example of Mr. Hickey, our government teacher. You know, and one of the I've heard this saying before, you know, of much is given, much is required of us. Much is given to us in this country, and it's freedom. Much is required, and that's for us to defend freedom. You know, and also there's a Texas artist back home, guy by the name of Tom Lay, and Tom he has this beautiful painting about showing the mountains near El Paso, and it's called Near El Paso. Actually, it was displayed in the Oval Office a few years ago. But Tom writes about this painting. He says that him and his wife Sarah live on the east side of the mountain. For it's living on the east side of the mountain that you can see the sunrise of the day ahead and not the sunset of the day that's past. Everybody here in Detroit and across the nation, I truly believe that the United States lives on the east side of the mountain, and our best days are ahead of us and yet to come. We don't live on the west side. We are on the east side. Don't let anybody ever tell you that the United States' best days are behind us, because they're not. Our best days are ahead of us, and we have bright days ahead of us. May God bless you. May God bless our troops, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.